ETs, no doubt in their UFOs, these space aliens have deactivated nuclear weapons from the US and the UK. According to the statement of several military officials, space aliens have deactivated nuclear weapons from both the US and the UK, and it seems that aliens really hate nukes. According to US military pilots, extraterrestrial beings have landed, infiltrated nuclear missile sites, and deactivated these weapons. Numerous highly ranking officials have claimed that since 1948, alien beings have been visiting countries such as the US and the UK and deactivating nuclear missiles. According to a senior US airman, alien beings have landed in a British base. Mysteriously, our governments have been working steadily to cover up this information in the best way possible. This should be interesting because this spring of this year, 2020, the UK will declassify all its UFO ET files. They will be made available for the public to study, read as much as they want. Now, mysteriously, our governments have been working steadily to cover up this information the best way possible. Captain Robert Salas and other military personnel opened up about aliens and UFOs, saying, "We're talking about unidentified flying objects, as simple as that. They're often known as UFOs, and you would call them that." Captain Salas even witnessed a UFO sighting at the Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana firsthand. On March 16, 1967, a mysterious UFO appeared in the sky. Captain Salas says, "I was on duty when an object came over and hovered directly over the site. The missiles shut down, 10 Minuteman missiles, and the same thing happened at another site a week later. There's a strong interest in our missiles by these objects, wherever they come from. I personally think they're not from planet Earth," end quote. But UFOs have been seen at numerous other military bases around the world. The UK seems to be one of those hotspots in Europe. According to Colonel Charles Halt, over 30 years ago, he witnessed a UFO encounter at the former military base, RAF Bentwaters, near Ipswich, when the otherworldly vehicle fired beams of light, quote-unquote, into the base. At that moment, radio chatter emerged where military personnel said that aliens had landed inside the nuclear storage area. Colonel Halt said, "I believe that the security service of both the United States and the United Kingdom have attempted, both then and now, to subvert the significance of what occurred at RAF Bentwaters by the use of well-practiced methods of disinformation," end quote. Robert Hastings, a researcher who has commented on writing on this particular subject, states that these otherworldly beings are at the moment interested in mere surveillance, but warns that aliens might have gone a step further on some occasions. He writes, "At long last, all of these witnesses are coming forward to say that, as unbelievable as it may seem to some, UFOs have long monitored and sometimes tampered with our nukes," end quote. Are aliens keeping an eye out for us, watching over us, so we don't kill planet Earth and everything in it? Have humans gone a step too far when it comes to nuclear weapons? And if so, can aliens really stop this? That is, if they actually do exist. And these are just some of the questions that people around the world have asked so far, and none of them have been answered by officials from the government. This is by EWAO. And concerning what some of these people claim, the Canadian military says, "It seems to me that Bentwaters incident is a classic case where an apparent intrusion into our airspace and indeed a landing in our country was witnessed by serious-minded people in the military, responsible people doing a responsible job. Bentwaters is in a sense a benchmark of how not to deal with these matters in the future. I know a good bit about Bentwaters incident. There are only two explanations of what that happened that night. The first is that what the people concerned, they claimed that something from outside the Earth's atmosphere landed at their Air Force base. They went and stood by it, they inspected it, they photographed it. The following day, they took tests on the ground where it had been and found radioactive traces. They reported this and sent it to our Ministry of Defense. This is a quote from Lord Admiral Hill Norton, former Chief of Defense Staff, 5-star Admiral of the Royal Navy, Chairman of the NATO Military Committee regarding what's known as the Bentwaters incident that took place in Rendlesham Forest. And it remains one of the most controversial UFO cases. Perhaps we'll find more of this spring when the UK declassifies all of its UFO ET files. And Norton is one of several hundred, more than 1,000 worldwide military witnesses coming forward to state and testify of the reality of extraterrestrial visitations. He later said, "There are objects in our atmosphere which are technically miles in advance of anything we can deploy, and we have no means of stopping them coming here, and that there is a serious possibility that we are being visited and have been visited for many years by people from outer space, from other civilizations, that it behooves us, in case some of these people in the future or now should turn hostile, to find out who they are, where they come from, and what they want. This should be the subject of rigorous scientific investigation and not the subject of rubbishing by tabloid newspapers." And also another event given to us by Colonel Ross Diedrichson says, "We observed the UFOs that were very much interested in the facilities, the nuclear weapons manufacturing facilities that were visiting. A couple of nuclear weapons that were sent out into space were destroyed by the extraterrestrials." And he says, and that is their extraterrestrial major concern, to preserve the integrity of Earth because it affects their own system. There was one incident when we exploded a nuclear weapon over the Pacific, and the disturbance that it caused because it shut out communications entirely over the Pacific base for a number of hours, in which no radio transmission was available at any time. This was one of the things that the extraterrestrials, later I learned, were highly concerned about because it affected our ionosphere. And in fact, spacecraft were unable to operate because of the pollution in the magnetic field, which they depended upon. And at the very end of the 70s and early 80s, we attempted to put a nuclear weapon on the moon to explode it for scientific measurements and other things, which was not acceptable to the extraterrestrials. They destroyed the weapon before it got to the moon. The idea of any explosion in space by any Earth government was not acceptable to the extraterrestrials. And that has been demonstrated by extraterrestrials over and over. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.